Maravilloso. Israel acusa a España de apoyar al terrorismo por las palabras de Sánchez y llama a la embajadora para una reprimenda. Las palabras de Sánchez al cierre de su gira por Israel, Cisjordania y Egipto sobre la posibilidad de un reconocimiento unilateral de Palestina ha abierto la primera brecha diplomática internacional del nuevo gobierno de coalición. Tenemos las palabras de Sánchez, tío, tenemos las declaraciones de Sánchez. Sánchez abre la puerta a que España reconozca unilateralmente el Estado palestino. Ay, no tengo las palabras de Sánchez aquí. Ha sido un compromiso firme en el acuerdo de gobierno. Es una cuestión de justicia hacerlo ya. Debemos pasar de las palabras a los hechos. España debe de ser un ejemplo para toda Europa. Es hora de reconocer al Estado palestino. Yo, tío, con estas cosas, en serio, que no haya una posición unilateral de todos los países europeos, entre ellos, por supuesto, España, de apoyo incondicional a Israel, me parece que es cosa de otro universo, tío. Me parece de estar totalmente equivocado en el choque civilizatorio al que vamos a afrontar y al que nos vamos a enfrentar en los próximos años. Es de estar completamente fuera de putísima órbita. Pero fuera de la órbita absolutamente. Absolutamente. ¿Sabes? De no enterarnos ni de misa a la media. A mí el rollo de Occidente no me gusta del todo. Es el rollito este... ¿Sabes? Vámonos con los del BRIC. Ahí deberíamos estar Españita, tío. Con Brasil, con Rusia, con China, claro que sí. Ay, Dios mío.
Es el momento de dar a la región un horizonte de paz y prosperidad, seguridad, estabilidad. Por eso hemos querido visitar también en este viaje al presidente Abbas en Ramallah. Debemos ofrecer al pueblo palestino un futuro de esperanza. No se trata solo de encontrar una solución a la crisis de Gaza. Israel debe ser el primero en adoptar un enfoque global que se ocupe también de Cisjordania y Jerusalén Este. Esto solo será posible mediante la aplicación de la solución de los dos estados, incluyendo el reconocimiento de la comunidad.
Pero tío, es que hablar de la solución de los dos estados, que me parece que es algo que tiene todo el sentido del mundo, está muy bien, pero no puedes hablar de eso cuando una de las partes, tío, está literalmente gobernada por un puto grupo terrorista. Es que... no sé, tío, es que me parece algo tan de cajón.
Internacional y de Israel, del Estado
bajo
de
el
Palestina.
volumen de los vídeos.
La Unión Europea, la Liga Árabe y la Organización para la Cooperación Islámica ya han hecho un llamamiento para que se celebre lo antes posible una conferencia internacional de paz. Debemos aportar una perspectiva política creíble a todo el proceso.
A lo mejor le habían escrito el discurso en inglés y ni se lo había leído antes, ¿eh? Y estaba ahí de, of course, we shall proceed to operate and... you know, for the peace and establishing the territory, bla 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 bla.
Si queremos que resulte exitoso, tanto Israel como Palestina deben estar presentes en dicha conferencia y la comunidad internacional debe implicarse de lleno para apoyarla. Europa está dispuesta a trabajar para que así sea. El objetivo de la conferencia debe ser aplicar la solución de los dos estados. Pasar una nueva página de reconocimiento mutuo es el mejor camino hacia una paz sostenible. Pero primero, hay que poner fin a las hostilidades. Mi país, España, seguirá reclamando un alto el fuego humanitario duradero y seguirá trabajando para ofrecer un horizonte de paz y...
Es que este tío solo dice gilipolleces, tío. Es que solo se dicen gilipolleces con esta cuestión, tronco. Es que yo no entiendo lo del alto el fuego humanitario verdadero y todas estas cuestiones cuando literalmente tienes... una de las partes que está dominada y gobernada por unos perros de presa, tío, que solo quieren verte arder. El rollo de, tío, Pedro Sánchez, Perro Sánchez, atiende, 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 que después de Israel vamos el resto, bro. Atiende, que cuando en un festival de música masacran a miles de civiles, tenemos en nuestras calles a gente celebrándolo. Atienda usted, atienda usted, entienda lo que se está enfrentando, entienda lo que se está enfrentando. No, es que claro, los grupos humanitarios, esto por aquí, esto por allá. Señor, que no se está enfrentando a unos tíos que están diciendo, oiga, por favor, podemos sentarnos en esta mesa y dialogar y a ver si podemos llegar a un acuerdo de paz. Que lo que tienes enfrente es a un tío que lo que quiere ver es tu puta cabeza clavada en una pica. Que no quiere negociar. Que toda su... ¿sabes? Toda su cultura filosófica cabe en un puto misil.
Prosperidad a esta región.
Que no lo entiendo, tío. No lo entiendo. O sea, yo entiendo, tío, que la peña, que está con el rollo antioccidental, que está con el rollo... pues eso, los liusibayas de la vida y tal. Yo entiendo que esa peña esté ahí de bueno, tal, oye, es que Palestina, tal, por aquí. Yo entiendo que los que tengan un rechazo visceral hacia las democracias liberales de Occidente y todas estas cuestiones, yo entiendo que estén perdiendo el culo con Palestina y todo este rollo, porque lo que quieren es que caiga el sistema en el que vivimos. Pero no entiendo, tío, el resto que está viendo lo que hay al otro lado y dice, interesante, rollo de no es interesante. Te van a trinchar como a un pavo si pudiesen. Netanyahu advierte a Sánchez que Europa será la siguiente. Vamos a ver. Hola Sergio, he visto esta mañana tu vídeo con FDV por la calle y quería comentar que parecías el gran Lebowski de Usera. Mucho ánimo y buen fin de calvo. Muchas gracias por los bits. Bit 9.
They say everyone is a target. These girls in a music festival.
Es que no entienden también cuando dicen, no, pero es que Israel bombardea y matan y tal, tío. No es lo puto mismo. No es lo puto mismo que existan daños colaterales civiles cuando tu objetivo es acabar con un grupo militar, con un grupo terrorista, que tu objetivo sean los grupos de civiles. No es lo mismo, cabrón. No es lo puto mismo. No es lo mismo que yo bombardee, mira, que hay un objetivo militar, vale, has matado a 4 civiles, es terrible, sin ningún tipo de duda. Pero es que en el otro caso su objetivo es matar civiles. No entiendes esa diferencia, esa distinción. Y este tío, estoy seguro que es un desnortado de la vida. Estoy seguro que es un Pedro Sánchez israelí. Y que tiene el culo pegado al sillón. Convencido. Genial. Tío, pero no os desubiquéis, cabrones. Si es que esto lo dijo Pérez Reverte perfectamente. Rollo de señores, no, es que estos son unos bestias, son unos borricos, hacen esto otro. Hay cierta legitimidad en lo que están pidiendo los otros. Los otros, ahora mismo, si pudiesen, violarían a tu hija, te cortarían la cabeza y la clavarían en una pica. Entérate.
They say everyone is a target. These girls in a music festival, these women, they're targets. Babies, they're targets. Old people, they're targets. Holocaust survivors, they're targets. Everyone is a combatant. Everyone. And they're deliberately not only target everyone, every citizen, no one is a civilian, no one is exempt from their murder, from their horror. They also hide behind their civilians. They deliberately implant themselves in hospitals, in schools, in residential areas, in UN facilities. They fire their rockets from there. Thousands of them. There is no symmetry here. These people target directly our cities all the time. Thousands and thousands and thousands of rockets falling on Barcelona, falling on Madrid, falling on Brussels, falling on Antwerp, or any one of the European cities. Thousands. Israel is a small country. They deliberately target civilians and they deliberately hide behind civilians and use them as a human shield. That's a war crime. And I would strongly urge you to make that distinction, not merely because it's right and just, but because your very societies are on the line. You're next. This is a battle for civilization. It has to be won. We will win it because we have no other choice. We don't have a future if we don't. Hamas has already said we'll do it again and again and again. So we'll have to eradicate.
Me dicen por aquí, esto es lo que dice un corresponsal británico, advirtió sobre el combate. Este no es un corresponsal británico, será un corresponsal británico, pero este señor es Douglas Murray, ¿vale? Este es el autor de La masa enfurecida. Este señor estuvo, de hecho, aquí hace relativamente poco, le estuve escuchando, porque fue como telonero de Jordan Peterson cuando vino aquí a España. Pero yo recomiendo bastante los libros que ha escrito. Tiene La guerra contra Occidente y La masa enfurecida. Están los dos traducidos al castellano y son muy buenos los dos, ¿vale?
What concerns me about what Israel is doing is not their efforts to get rid of Hamas, but because of the particular nature of Hamas embedding themselves amongst civilian populations with the massive amounts of civilian casualties that will inevitably come, and that figure will grow and grow and grow. Are we not, as Barack Obama warned, are we not creating here just an opportunity for far greater radicalization of all those young Palestinians who watched their loved ones get killed? Why would we imagine that at the end of all this, they're going to want to do anything other than to become a new version of Hamas in wanting to exact revenge for what happened to their families?
Well, two things. One is, if you just follow the logic of what Barack Obama said, then you just shouldn't do anything. If you're Israel, you should be attacked and just sit back and say, great, we'll wait for the next one. But the second and more important thing is, your question supposes that there is a sort of peaceful Palestinian population in the Gaza who would love a two-state solution, and then a few bad apples in Hamas. I think that's not true. Why is it that when one of the victims of the music festival, a poor young German Jewish girl, who it seems was raped and then brutally murdered and taken into the Gaza naked. Why was it that you can find, and anyone can find this online, a crowd of ordinary Gazans, it wasn't Hamas, it wasn't a Hamas rally, ordinary Gazans spitting on her body, hitting her body, mutilating her body further as it went down the street? Does that strike you, Piers, as a placid population of peacenik types who are just desperately waiting for a two-state solution to be put back on the table for the millionth time in the last 70-something years? It doesn't seem like that to me.
No, but there are over 2 million people in Gaza, and there weren't 2 million people in that video clip. There were a few hundred. So I don't like to make...
Yeah, well, a few hundred at random. A few hundred at random. And did you see anyone in it saying, hey, guys, stop. We're not meant to mutilate the bodies of girls or rape them in public? No, I didn't see that.
But then what you're really articulating, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't what you're articulating really an endorsement of collective punishment, where you assume they're all guilty?
No.
And if they don't stand up to Hamas, they're also guilty. And that's where people have a problem, I think, with the moral line here, which is if you hold all the Gazans equally responsible, then is that not collective punishment, which is illegal?
Well, first of all, there is some responsibility for the peoples in the Gaza. If you elect Hamas and they kill Fatah, and then they remain in power for all of the years afterwards, I'm afraid that there is some responsibility of the people in that situation. You know, when the Germans had Adolf Hitler come to power and voted for him, we in Britain took the view that the German people were responsible in some way. So I'm not for collective punishment per se, but nor am I for this idea that there is something unique going on in the Israeli-Gaza context that we in Britain couldn't understand.
Actually, there is one unique thing.
In our own history, we've done very similar things.
But there is one unique thing, which is that the population of Gaza is pretty unique in that nearly half of the population are children. That is a unique situation.
No, I'll tell you what's unique about the population of Gaza. It's the only population in the world where people routinely claim Israelis are committing genocide, but which has a population boom all of the time. I mean, that strikes me as being quite an interesting thing about the Gaza. But as for the moral community, I want to make a very, very important point, if I can say so, on this, which is, you know, people quite often abuse history, and they say things all the time. I mean, about the only thing anyone from history knows is about the Nazis. Here's something I can tell you with absolute certainty, Piers, having not just seen some of the results of what Hamas did on the ground here in Israel a few weeks ago, but having watched the videos of the unedited footage, which I was one of the journalists was sadly allowed to see the other day. I can tell you one thing: the comparison between Hamas and the Nazis is insufficient. And sorry, there's an incoming.
Get safe, Douglas.
Come.
Douglas?
It came from the other directions. Let's just yeah. It's fine. Sorry, it was a rocket coming. Looked like it was just going to land on us here.
Which way was that rocket coming from?
Okay.
Was it coming from
Gaza? So yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's been happening all day. Let me just finish this point, if I may.
Before we go on, Douglas, Atman, how does that make
Sure.
you? How does that make you feel? What just happened there?
I mean, it's I'm a little used to it. I was in Ukraine last year and was in Kherson and Odessa and Mykolaiv, and when the Russians were shelling it, so I'm a little used to it. But just if I can just finish this point, you know, sorry, there's a lot of banging going on, but anyway, we'll keep going.
Well, look, if you need to stop, Douglas, we understand.
No, don't worry. If we need to stop, I'll run to the shelter, I assure you. The thing that struck me, you know, Piers, about seeing the 7th of October footage was that even the Nazis were actually ashamed of what they did. You know, SS battalions who spent their days shooting Jews in the back of the head and pushing them into trenches had to get very, very drunk in the evening to forget what they had done. The Nazi high command famously had to sort of get around the problem of soldier morale because the soldiers knew this wasn't exactly what their lives were meant to look like either. I tell you one very big difference. If you look at the footage, the raw footage, and I really hope people don't on a wider scale have to view what I viewed the other day, if they see it, they will see something that is at least as barbaric as what the Nazis did. But here's the difference. They did it with glee. They were deeply proud. You see people trying to, you know, taking the head off a young Israeli man with a shovel and then calling their parents back in Gaza and telling them, Father, I've killed 10 Jews with my own hands. Get mother on the phone. I want to tell her how great a job her son has done. You know, I come back to this thing. I'm not exaggerating this. It's very, very interesting, and people need to realize you had this situation with the Nazis, where they also were a genocidal anti-Semitic organization, but they tried to cover their crimes up. Hamas are actually proud of them, and they've said they will do them until the whole world is clear of Jews.
Yeah.
So I suggest we take that seriously, and I think that Israel is taking it seriously. I hope they continue to take it seriously, but I think the world should take it seriously, and that includes Britain. And when I hear British journalists, British commentators, and British politicians lecturing the Israelis on what they should do, I think, I'm sorry, this shows a failing in our country. It shows that we in Britain cannot enforce our laws. We don't even...
Basado o rojo pastillado.